E-100 is not the top of the tree, and it's one of my favorite line in all the tanks, so we better make a video about this. Hello people, welcome back to the channel. This is Sorins, and today's video we are gonna quick review the line towards the E-100. Now it's the top of the tree. Now you can get really nice discounts on the tier 10, the tier 9, the tier 8, whether you are stuck on the research. You can do damage and get yourself a lot of experience and crew experience. And yeah, it's the best time to grind this line if you haven't done so. Starting off at tier 5, it's when the fun actually begins with the VK31H. This vehicle, it is really decent in my opinion for a tier 5. You do have the main focus of this vehicle is the gun. You do have 157 meters of penetration on your AP rounds, which means you never need to fire the premium. And if you do need to fire the premium, it's maybe gonna be versus tier 9s and tier 8s, which are tanks that you're never gonna ever meet. 221 millimeters of average penetration, but they're quite expensive, so yeah, I don't recommend firing the APCR. On top of that, the AP gets really nice shell velocity, so you better take that into consideration. At 135 DPS, it's pretty low, but still you can work with that at tier 5. Next to that, the dispersion is quite decent. The DPM is 1900, which is not the best, but considering I do have standard equipment, my equipment is the turbocharger because this tank is slow, and overall the line is gonna be reasonably slow. And I don't know why I'm using the spore line. Maybe because I try to do some ramming and some miming around, but you can use binoculars, you can play as a support role or a brawler, and something over here with this setup. Overall, I give this vehicle a rating of an 8 out of 10 from my perspective. Next to that, we can move to the tier 6, and here it is where actually I haven't sold it good. This vehicle, it's one of the best tier 6s heavy tank that you can get yourself for tournaments, for the mission, actually not for the mission, for tournaments overall. Why is that? Because this tank gets 1240 hit points stock, and if you're combining with the bond with the hardening, it's 1360, which is as much as you get on a TOG. Well, not really, but overall you do have the mobility, you do have the gun, and the gun behaves pretty well, and it was a pleasure to remark this vehicle. And overall you do have quite of a big problem with the view range, as you do have on the tier 5, but overall you are pretty much like a heavy tank that you are fighting in the front line. You don't need to view range, you just need the comeback capabilities, like the combat capability. You need to do damage and to tank shots. That's pretty much all you need. On top of that, the mobility is still really slow, and I recommend using a turbocharger. Next to that, once again, this tank plays like the tier 5, where we have straight side, and you pretty much this line teaches you on how you can angle effectively. And let me see my armor using which is 0.32, and if you look at King Tiger or what is, you are gonna bounce maybe 300 400 3-4 shells on a battle if you're gonna use your armor effect. So yeah, it's still more like a medium vehicle versus higher tiers, but versus lower tiers and equal, you are gonna play in the front line, and this tank is gonna reward you for that. Next to that, we have the tier 7 Tigeron, and this tank I really fell in love, and I felt so sad that I had to move my crew to the next tier. And yeah, this is a tank where you actually can snipe, and you do have a lot of hit points. Unfortunately, I haven't done any field modification on this to see how it performs with what it was called this with another setup, but my setup was vents, rammer, and aiming device, because usually with the Tiger I don't have the armor to fight against any kind of opponent, and your tank is so much larger than the predecessor. Obviously, you're just a box. Artillery is easy to hit. This thing is easy pen. The mantle is also easy pen. So you don't have any armor. But what you do have is a punchy gun, and if I kick my crew out of the vehicle, as you can see with myself, 2600 DPM for the tier 8, for the tier 7, and having 280 alpha damage with a 210 203, is it? Yeah, 203 meters of AP pen. You don't really need to fire that gold that often as I had in my IS-2S video. And overall, you do have like one of the best penetration for this tier. But the shell penetration on your APCR is not the best at 237, but you can still work with that. On top of that, the HEs are beautiful with 370 alpha and 44 penetration. On top of that, 1000 meters velocity is just really decent. You can really work with the gun. 7 degrees of gun depression is decent. The mobility, yeah, you kind of still need to use a turbo, but in my case wasn't the need for that. And on top of that, the view range starts to go up a bit, I believe to 280. So yeah, using the vents, the food, and pretty much like a good crew that you get from playing the other tanks is gonna grant you the good view range. And oh boy, I forget to give this tank the rating. I'll give it a 9.5 out of 10. Why is the 0.5? Well, it's for the armor. You are gonna play only as a support role, and low amount of time you're gonna play in the front line. And talking about the VK, this tank is once again a 9 out of 10 from my performance. Next to that, we do have the tier 8, the Tiger 2, and a lot of people, it's just that they underperform in this tank, and they say it's quite bad, but obviously for me it doesn't feel like. And obviously I managed to get my 3 mark of excellence in this, and I managed to do the this to get my I finished the field modification, yes. With the Tiger 1 I finished the tank so fast that I didn't even manage to get the field modification. With this other story, I needed 200k experience for it to research and everything. Still, what is the Tiger 2? It does perform really well. Well, it doesn't have the stock gun. Actually, I sold it. So yeah, talking about the big gun, the 105 millimeter, it is packing 360 alpha damage. It's quite decent. The DPM kind of sucks overall. The DPM of those line is a bit on the edge of 2000. It's not the highest, it's not the lowest. You can work with that really decent. The dispersion is really good, the gun handling is really good. The mobility and overall the performance of this, yeah, it does need the turbo, which I felt like I had a setup with the turbo. Actually, it was only full combat. Still, I recommend using the turbo because this tank is a bit slow. And overall 1820 hit points with my setup because I made once again a full. This tank I played a lot of aggressive than the Tiger 1 because you actually get a lot of armor on this. Like if you manage to hide this, to use your gun depression to maybe like wiggle and make your enemies hit this angle side, it's gonna bounce off. Side scraping is essential, but keep in mind that hitting the tank into the side while you are below it is gonna hit an underflap and you're gonna overmatch it to 121mm caliber and higher. So keep in mind in that. But overall, the Tiger 2 it's not as bad as many people say. On top of that, we do have the videos on the channel all about the vehicles that I reviewed. Keep in mind they're down below, and the timestamps are gonna be down below as well. And yeah, overall the Tiger I'll give it an 8.5 out of 10, just because this tank it does have the potential, but it still needs some buffs over there here and there, like the DPM it's out of the meta, and usually with overall the damaging per round 360 it's a bit low. Usually now you get like medium tanks with 360 with a drum, with auto load, auto reload, and yeah, this tank it's a bit fallen apart, but still it still does the work. On top of that, you can do a lot of missions. Next to that, where I am stuck at, and I haven't really played A75 for that long, but overall this is like one of my best tank. I mean, this tank really does the good heavy job. Yeah, I do have the 530 alpha damage, like now you get like a really great damage increase, and the gun it's over 246 and 311 on your premium rounds, which is pretty much the same gun as you get on the Scorpion G, the E-100, the mouse, the motion, and yeah, overall you're pretty much familiar with this amount of penetration and APCR and everything you need to know about the vehicle. But overall this tank its armor is really decent for its tier. You do bounce a lot of enemy incoming shells with a turret, with a sight. Keep in mind, once again, you do have the underflap that can be overmatched. The lower pet is like 220, 230 millimeters um, of armor on the flat ground. Keep in mind that it's really angle versus the I6 with premium rounds. He doesn't have anywhere to pen you. On top of that, the rooftop, it's 60 meter now, and only the FE405 can overmatch you with AP and APCRs. And yeah, overall, this tank is really strong indeed. And I do have a blast playing it, and yeah, I'm quite apart from the trimmer, but I still gonna grind it, and 7.2k damage, my best battle, which is on YouTube as well, showed the potential of this vehicle. Once again, the DPM is limited. The dispersion is quite decent for this amount of caliber, which is 128 millimeter. And yeah, overall, this rifle is decent. The setup which I'm using over here is for any kind of like, usually when you three mark things, you want to do spotting and damage. And now if I'm gonna unlock the field modification, I'm gonna take a hardening on top of that. But now we managed to reach the top, the cherry on the cake. It is the E-100. I played this tank on a test server, and what I can say, I enjoyed it. You are huge, you kind of are doing the job better than the mouse. Obviously, with the mouse, you do have the cheeks, and you're kind of longer, and this thing gets the side scars as well, which can help you absorb the heat, and um, like those tracks are big as the tank itself, and you can do some bouncing. On top of that, you do have really nice DPM, 2700 stock with the 120 meter gun, which comes at when you buy the tank, and it is really competitive. You can go in with the 3000 DPM range and having 2700 base hit point. It is really gonna make your tank durable and be a threat to the enemy. And yeah, overall 0.39 accuracy. Now is that the accuracy, it's not the best, but usually what happens, you get more better, like you fight in close range combat with this vehicle and you don't feel the accuracy as bad. But on top of that, unlike the mouse, you can opt for the 15 centimeter gun, which has 334 hit pen and really nice HE rounds. Well, now I cannot really say that the HEs are decent enough, but yeah, you get pretty much worse everything, worse DPM, just to get better alpha damage and better hit pen. And on top of that, the shell velocity is really bad on those gun. And if you feel like you don't know how to pre-aim or to how you call it, like to give lead, the 12 centimeter is gonna be much better. So to top it all off, we do have a month to grind towards the 100, and it plays meta well. A lot of people are fighting the heat, but still, once you manage to get into the tank, you know how to angle effectively. It's gonna be like 10, 20, 30 battles that you're gonna struggle in, and then once you get used to the tank, it's gonna be a pleasure to play. And overall, the 100 Tech 3, it's really enjoyable for my playstyle, for my opinion. It does feel like you have everything you need to be effective on the battlefield. And the E-100, once again, you do have a lot of hit points. It will help you to complete missions, which is really important. So stay tuned, as I'm gonna do a review on once I manage to buy them. And yeah, I believe you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.